Welcome to Community, the TV show. I'm Kathy Antunes, guest hosting for Annette Sherman. Today we're going to talk about one of Sarasota's most beloved nature spots, the celery fields, and Sarasota Audubon Society, who is stewarding this wonderful resource for us. With me today is Rob Wright. He is the Conservation Chair of the Sarasota Audubon Society. So Rob, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So
I was just going to say, it's always nice to be able to put in a good plug for the Audubon Society because they do very good work.
Absolutely. Well, actually, really, the Audubon Society is the focus of the show. But let's talk about you for a little while because you have a great history here in Sarasota. You are a native Floridian. I'm going to say you're a native Floridian, but you grew up here.
Yes, I did.
So tell us about that.
Well, it's very interesting because my parents actually came from upstate New York in a little town called Red Creek.
Okay.
And they were visiting down in Nokomis over Christmas vacation and decided they loved the place. And of course, while they were there, I happened to be conceived.
Okay.
So they ended up going back home. And then, I was born 9 months later up there in Red Creek area. And then 3 months after I was born, we moved here to Nokomis, and that's where I grew up.
So I'm going to say that you really are a native Floridian.
I consider myself so.
Absolutely. And native to Nokomis.
Yes.
So you are a rare bird, and these, no pun intended, because we're talking about birds. So you grew up here, and you also spent a career working for the county.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, I actually worked for the county for a short time.
Okay.
Originally with the Department of Health in environmental health, basically doing public water systems and that kind of thing. Then I moved on to the Water Management District up in Tallahassee and worked there for about 10 years. And then when I came back, I spent the last 15 years of my career with Sarasota County. Primarily, I was working as the Neighborhood Environmental Stewardship Team Coordinator, which was a really fun job because it was probably the first time in my career I've actually been able to go out and meet with people and say, hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you, and be able to really say it with a straight face.
Yeah.
So, and that job was so nice because it really allowed me to go out and talk to the communities and teach them how they could be more environmentally friendly and also help them solve environmental problems that they might be having at the same time.
Yeah, because, for most people, move here like your parents did. They fall in love with the place and they move here, and it's the environment, right? That's really the draw, the beaches and the wildlife and the beautiful vegetation. So the celery fields and the Sarasota Audubon Nature Center really, it was kind of a surprise what happened there. This area around the celery fields is named that because they literally grew celery there.
Correct.
But it was originally a wetland, then it became agriculture, and then
Yes.
it was put back into its, restored as a wetland. Were you at the county when that was going on?
Yes.
Okay.
And the interesting thing for me is that, as you say, we finally did something that was very, very positive for the area after it
Yes.
had been turned into agriculture. And the whole thing is, when you think about it, is that because we were having issues with flooding on Philippi Creek, we had to find somewhere and something to do with the stormwater. So we had very good engineers, a good friend of mine named Steve Swa, who was very instrumental in designing, the Celery Fields project. And of course, when that came about, the idea was to dig stormwater area that would hold X amount of water and then release it slowly after the storm was over. So it was a great idea. They went in, dug the big holes, took all the dirt from the big holes that they dug to make the ponds, piled it up over on the north side of Palmer Boulevard into the giant mound.
Yes,
and then
Mount Sarasota.
correct.
Well,
Mount Celery, whatever they call it from that perspective. But it was always interesting because that was the game plan, was to build this stormwater area, period.
So it's just to solve a flooding issue.
Correct.
Okay.
And then lo and behold, people started noticing that literally, which didn't surprise me, everything that had been run out of other places because of development, suddenly found this wonderful place to live.
Wildlife.
Wildlife.
Yeah.
Where there were no people at the time, because again, it was just a stormwater area. And so as more and more of the birds and the otters and the armadillo and the bunnies and everything else that you find out there today started coming into the area, people started going there.
Yeah.
In fact, I myself was one of the first people to ride a mountain bike to the top of Mount Celery before it was ever even anything was there.
Okay.
And I got to the top, and of course, going to the top was fairly good. But coming down, luckily, it was totally vegetated with big bushes at that time, because I crashed and burned and went flying into a bush and was totally unhurt. So life turned out
That's not
well.
a usual thing to be in Florida, to be coming down a little mountain and
That's right.
wiping out on your mountain bike.
That's right.
See
Which
what you
again
can.
is why the area is such a unique place.
It is. So what we have now, thanks to the stewardship of the county doing something spectacularly
Yes.
right,
Yes.
and Sarasota Audubon has taken part too. This place, the celery fields, is home to throughout the year because there are migratory birds. But there's, I think the species count is over 230 now. Am
Yes.
I right?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see over 230 species of birds. You know, Rob, you brought some visuals.
Yes.
So I'd like to ask our producer to show some of those.
Okay.
I know you've got a map, but tell us this bird here.
That one is a little night heron.
Okay.
And what I love about night herons is the fact that they're incredibly friendly to people.
Oh.
So they're not the least bit shy about taking care of business, fishing, preening themselves, whatever they want to do. So you can literally get very close to them for photography.
Yeah.
And they're a really beautiful bird. And I have always had, having grown up in Nokomis, basically, I have always had a fascination for a lot of the bigger birds. And so that's probably the smallest of the heron group
Of the herons, yeah.
that you would normally see out there, because everything else is pretty much things that you're not going to miss. But this little guy is something that can, kind of hide there, amongst the marsh grass.
Yeah. Now, and there was another bird in flight, the next photograph. Ooh, now that is a big one. I know
Yes.
that bird.
Yeah.
Tell us about him or her.
Well, that is a sandhill crane, and that is one of the, endangered species, basically, that throughout Florida that lives here in this area. And it's one of those things where what I really love about them is the fact that they're very family oriented.
They're monogamous, aren't they?
Yes. In fact, one day when I was out on one of the roads right near the celery fields, I was on my way to work, and as we were coming in line, there was a little family of sandhill cranes standing there, a father, mother, and 2 chicks.
2 chicks. That's
So the father stood there and waited for a little break in traffic. Then he walked out into the middle of the road, spread his wings,
nice. Oh my gosh.
stopping traffic, staring at the cars. Mom hustles the kids across the street.
Oh my goodness, that must have been
And then
awesome.
when he checks to make sure that mom is okay, puts his wings down and walks across.
So they adapted well to the environment.
They did.
This guy is directing traffic.
Yes.
And what's been amazing is that this incredible resource, and there's an Audubon Nature Center
Yes,
right there,
right.
but you can literally drive 15 minutes or 20 minutes from downtown and find yourself in this amazing wildlife refuge. I mean, it's functioning like a wildlife refuge.
And that is the key. Once Audubon got involved, then we started working with the county and talking about how we could have little walkways, going out into the marsh areas and trails and things like that, where the public could get up close and personal, but not be intrusive. That the bird life could go, I'm done, and move off into a nicer spot.
Yeah.
From that perspective.
I love to go out there because it completely decompresses you.
Yes.
It's a place to totally decompress. And these walkways, as you say, you just walk out and you're part of nature, but you're not intruding. So you really get to see. I've seen eagles, ospreys, purple gallinule, tiger heron. It is an incredible show. roseate spoonbill, I've only seen one, but those are also. Do we have a map? Because you had brought a map. I'm wondering if we can show that. So for people who are unfamiliar in Sarasota or visiting, tell us about, give us the lay of the land of this map.
Well, primarily, Palmer Boulevard intersects the Celery Fields area. And it is just east of the interstate on Palmer Boulevard.
And it's south of Fruitville.
South of Fruitville,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And so you can see from the map, there's a lot of water there, which is, and a lot of water's edge is where you're really going to
Correct.
find a lot of the wildlife. Yeah.
And interestingly enough, when you go out there either at dusk or near dawn, is when you're going to find most of the things
Yeah. when
coming to life.
They're feeding. That's
Right.
always a good time to, I know when I have friends visiting, and if they love nature at all, I take them out there.
Yep.
And, well, sunrise, I actually met a friend out there at sunrise, and we just saw so many different things. But sunset's actually a little easier time for
Yes.
most people
Yes.
to make it out there. But the celery fields was built in when exactly? Because it took a while for people to...
1993, I believe.
Okay. So it took some time for it to be established, because it's really a wetland
Right.
now.
Right.
It's an established wetland, which it had been before.
Yes.
But the Audubon Society, your nature center there is relatively new.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
How
again,
long
that
is
was something where, again, the Audubon Society is a totally volunteer organization. And so all the funding came from donations till eventually be able to come up to have the money. I don't remember the specific year that it was built, but it has not been there a long time.
Yeah. No, relatively.
And again, what was nice is it really, like so many things, Audubon was able to spearhead a community project to really get something there. So that way you've got a place where not only can you come and get out into the woods, and we're actually not very many woods at the moment.
Yeah, the wetland.
But you can get out into the marsh and the wetland areas. And then you can come and go to the area where you're at the nature center, and you can learn about all the things that you've seen.
Yeah, so tell us what's at the nature center.
Well, primarily it's an avenue to find out what you're seeing.
Okay.
There's lots of photographs and lots of information on the birds that you're seeing there, and also lots of information on events that are taking place that if you're interested, you might be willing to jump on. For example, they have astronomy night where they go up on top of the hill and do that. And we do basically other bird walks, and right now we are currently doing climate change walks.
Really?
So that people can come kind of walk out into the environment and talk about what is going on, how things have changed.
Okay. Yeah, that's very fascinating. With the bird walks, is there, well, I know what I wanted to ask you about your bird count, because Audubon this is a national
Yes.
organization, and every year the organization nationally does a bird count.
Correct.
How does Sarasota
And we
fit
have one
in?
coming up in January 4th.
So what is that like? What do you all do?
Well, I mean, primarily it's a thing of going to all the areas where you would normally find the birds at that particular time, and seeing, is it an increase or a decrease? Because
population?
honestly, in the population, because we're on a major flyway that comes from north to south and south to north, depending on the time of year.
So the migration
Right.
of birds is happening. This
Yes.
is a resting point for
Right.
many.
And so
Okay.
consequently, it's an opportunity to give us an idea of how things are going. Because I know this, I shouldn't say this, but in reality, when you think about it from an environmental health standpoint,
Yeah,
the birds are the canary in the coal mine.
they are. Yes. Well, Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring,
Exactly.
in the 60s, right?
Right.
That was a big wake-up call to the United States, because
Right.
Silent Spring, we weren't hearing birds
Right.
anymore, and it had to do with the toxicity of
The pesticides, basically.
right, in our
making
environment.
their eggshells very weak, and the hatchlings couldn't go full term.
Yeah, but we're seeing a bit of concern about bird population again, aren't we, on a national level?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where are we at with?
Well, it's one of those things where I am not a bird expert.
Okay.
One of the things that I leave to the other folks in Audubon is to be the expert on what's going on from a birding standpoint. The reason they asked me to come on board was because they really wanted somebody who had kind of an overall environmental background, who could help them expand beyond just the bird population.
Yeah.
So, but again, you're right. It's one of those things where so much of what's happening is the fact that we're having increased development in
Yeah.
many areas where the bird population used to live, along with everything else.
We're taking over their
Yes.
habitat a bit.
Well, in
But-
fact, when you look around at so many new subdivisions, you will see things like turkey's roost, and something like
Or the woods, something called the woods, right?
yes, something called the woods, and then you go there and
And
you
there's
find
no
out that
woods.
there are no woods anymore.
There used to be woods. Yeah.
And so what you have to think about is
Yeah.
everything that you are displacing that used to live there has to go somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
or
sometimes,
they die.
or
yeah.
they die.
Yeah.
Because if you disrupt their food supply and their homes, then you're not going anywhere. In fact, I kind of like to think of the celery fields as, when you think about it, and this is again one of the things with the quad properties that are just to the west of where the main celery fields are,
Yes.
that the county has now seen fit to put in
Preserve.
conservation easement that will so they'll be preserved, and we can start doing something with those properties from that perspective. But what I've always looked at those as, from a why are they important, is a situation where if you think of the celery fields as your home,
Yeah.
okay, the quad areas are your front yard. And without that front yard, you are immediately walking out your front door into the turmoil of everyday life.
Yeah. So we need a
So
transition.
you need the transition. You need
Yeah.
a buffer zone.
We need the buffer zones that actually are habitat for
Right,
wildlife.
yes.
So you have a few more photographs I'm hoping that we can share and get a look at the celery fields if you've never been there. See this?
That photograph is one that was taken from the top of the hill.
Okay.
And the reason I took that was just to give people the idea that at ground level, you can see a lot,
Yeah.
but you can't really get the full perspective of how beautiful the area is and what the expanse of the area is.
So it's worth climbing that hill. To
It's
get a
worth
better,
climbing the hill.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have not done that yet, so I need to do that.
And there are easy trails.
Okay.
There are difficult trails and there are easy
Oh,
trails.
I'm sure
so.
I can handle them. That's good. But I see some wood storks
Yes.
here. You
Now,
also
that,
have.
that photograph I took because one of the discussions that we had with the county staff early on was whether or not there was any habitat value to the open grassland where the quad properties are. Because for years, the county has just been maintaining them with, mowing them once every,
And assuming
month or whatever.
they have no value.
and assuming that they had no value. And I took that photograph one evening just to show, well, not so much.
Yeah.
That in reality, things are there constantly, not maybe during midday
No.
when most people are working and when most people would be driving by. But as I said before, early in the morning, late in the evening, or even at night,
Yeah.
those areas come very much alive.
Yeah. Well, the birds are smart. They live in Florida. They don't want to be out in the heat of the day,
Right.
so they're active in the morning and at night.
But
Yeah.
one thing with the wood stork is, again, the wood stork is not something that you see up close and personal very often. They normally are in areas that are more difficult to get to from
Yeah.
that perspective.
Yeah.
And just to show that, things that are as important as a wood stork, and the fact that a lot of these birds and all the other critters, they're all cohabitating. So it's so important not to disrupt that and force one group out, and then something else has got to figure out how it fits into the big ecosystem.
Right. And so while I'm asking you, I did want to ask if we could put the website up. Yeah,
Sure.
It's sarasotaAudubon.org.
Yes.
And people can go to your website and find out what's happening
Correct.
at the Nature Center. It's really accessible, great parking there. It's a great place to begin your visit
Yes.
at the celery fields. But Rob, you have this experience of helping neighborhoods coexist with the environment, right?
Yes.
Teaching them how to do a better job. And you make a great point about Sarasota. We're undergoing a lot of development. But does it have to be, all or nothing choice? I mean, can't we find ways to create habitat for wildlife among our neighborhoods?
Yes, and that's something that so many people don't realize, is that one of the biggest uses of water in the state of Florida is people watering their lawns.
Okay.
And there are so many plants out there, from ground covers to bushes and various other things, that can make beautiful lawns and beautiful areas to be, almost like kind of the English garden scenario,
Yeah.
where you don't, once the plant is established, you don't have to water it anymore. It is designed
It's native.
as Florida native to
Yeah.
survive on the sun and the rain and everything else from that perspective. And again, the other thing that I love is that there are some examples of communities which have been built within nature, not on top of it. They're few and far between. The only one that comes to mind offhand that's nearby is one called River Forest up in Manatee County off the Braden River.
Okay.
And again, that's a place where if you're searching for a home and all you see are the standard subdivisions that we're putting together now, where every house looks alike, and you would like something a little more unique, that's a place to look to let you see where communities can be done differently. But developers are not going to move in that direction unless the populace wants to buy homes
Yeah.
in that kind of scenario.
That's true.
And I
That's
think
true.
that so many people who move down here, they see what's being offered to them and they just think, oh, this is the Florida lifestyle. And I've got my big green yard and the 1.2 trees
Yeah.
and the 5 bushes over there, and I'm good. And they
Yeah.
don't realize that there's so much more to it.
There's a lot more to it. And actually, I have a friend who has a Florida native yard, and there's so many birds. It's very entertaining. I mean, I'll go over there in the morning and just watch the show with her sometimes
Yep.
to see all of we've seen an owl, blue jays, cardinals, titmouse, that's
Yes.
the kind of bird?
Yes.
Yeah, some warblers. So it's pretty amazing. You really, if you just start moving in that direction, and I think that the county is still characterizing the area around the nature center as a stormwater facility.
Yes.
When it actually has become a huge park for the residents of Sarasota County. And I think the last time I checked, it was like number 12 or 13 on TripAdvisor
Right.
as an attraction. So really, the Audubon Nature Center and the surrounding celery fields are becoming an important part of tourism, aren't they?
It truly is. In
That's-
fact, so many times when you think about if you are a person who happens to come down at the wrong time of year, when the beaches have red tide, that's when places like the celery fields are a wonderful place to go. It's a great place to walk, ride bikes, you name it. I mean, it's just a spectacular place to get into nature, see a little bit of Florida
Yeah,
without going, like, for example, all the way out to Mica River State Park.
yeah. Because the thing is, like I said, when I came down here, and I craved that, seeing these birds, seeing what was exotic. You were born up in New York. I lived there, for my young adult life and growing up. And these images of Florida with all the unique wildlife was a real attraction. And this is a unique environment actually worldwide, isn't it?
Yes,
it
is.
The environment
People from
in
all
Florida.
over the world come here specifically to go see what's at the celery fields.
Yeah, so what are you seeing in the Nature Center when people check in? Where are they coming from?
Oh gosh, I mean, literally almost every country in the world
Okay.
has had people.
Because birding,
Birding is a very popular sport everywhere. And
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated myself. Like I said, I'm kind of a hawk person. I like raptors.
the raptors, so the ospreys, the hawks, the eagles, and they're out there too.
And I'm so fortunate because I have a big oak tree in my front yard where I'm living
Uh-huh.
now in Sylvan, which is about a mile from where the celery fields are, where I have a mating pair of red-shouldered hawks.
Wow, and they come back every year? Are they monogamous too? The,
Apparently so.
cranes? That's nice. So you're providing a
Yes.
nice area for them. Well, let me get that website up again, just to
Okay.
remind people. It's SarasotaAudubon.org, and your phone number. What upcoming events can we look forward to? I mean, the bird migration too is
Correct. That's
this
coming up in
winter.
January, right.
Okay, so the bird
January
count
4th.
is January,
Right.
and then the winter is a pretty important time where you see a lot of species there.
Yes.
So
Well, in fact, as I said, we're doing all kinds of educational walks out there.
okay.
So you can go on the website, or you can contact the Nature Center, or preferably stop by and ask about what's available, because, again, depending on how many people sign up, things can be extended, where we may be doing more of them, or if not enough people sign up, things may be canceled.
Maybe canceled. So we need to participate.
Really, and again, going out there is your best bet.
Okay.
Go out there, take a look. Whether you go to the center first or you go to the center last, either
Yeah.
one would be fine. But when you go to the center first, what I like is the idea that you can find out things not to miss while you're
Okay.
there.
Okay. How about it for handicapped people? Is pretty accessible?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of the trails are still gravel,
Okay.
but the boardwalks and stuff are all totally accessible from that standpoint.
The boardwalks, and we just have a minute left, but the boardwalks are phenomenal. I would
Yes.
encourage people to just be patient. It's not a 5-minute visit typically. You've got to
Correct.
plan to spend a bit of time, but if you do, you're gonna be. Usually, you're treated with something pretty special.
And the center
So-
opens, the Nature Center opens about 9 o'clock in the morning. And
Okay.
again, it's all volunteer. So it's one of those things where, if you go there and somebody's a little late, don't be upset.
That's right, because we're all volunteers.
Correct.
Rob Wright, I want to thank you, thank the audience for spending this time with us to learn about the Audubon Center. It is a unique amenity in Sarasota, and people coming from all over the world. Go check it out, the celery fields in the Sarasota Audubon Nature Center. Rob, thanks so much.
Thank you so much
spending
for
the time
having
with
me.
us. I appreciate it. And we'll look for you out there.
Sounds good.
Okay, take it easy. Thanks so much.
The time really flew. We bid you adieu from community. If you want to know why we love it here, so check out Community. Well, it's a who's who, a what's, when, and where show. It's a mover and shakers who care show.